Welcome to another episode with Living with Purpose. And today I have Dr. Elie Abadie, who a rabbi who works both in New York, the United Arab Emirates, and also shuttles between New York and Miami. He has done some amazing work both as a practicing physician, but also a rabbi. So he is not only just healing your body, but he is also healing your spirits and your spirituality. So please join me in welcoming Rabbi Dr. Elie Abadie to Living with Purpose. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akhtar. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Tell us your growing up and how you moved into both the medical space and then also as a rabbi and being in the spiritual healing space.
My story goes back several hundred years, if I may say. My ancestors really are from Spain, from Andalusia, Spain. They were expelled in 1492 from Spain when there was the expulsion there of the Jewish community. My ancestors trekked the road from southern Europe, from Spain to Provence, to Italy, to Yugoslavia, to Greece, to Turkey, and ended up in Syria around the early 1800s. My parents were born in Aleppo, Syria. Then my parents had to escape Aleppo, Syria in 1948 when the State of Israel was established, and there was a huge uprising in 10 Arab countries against the Jewish communities there, even though they had no, that wasn't their fault, so to speak. But my parents escaped for their life Syria, and they settled in Lebanon, as Lebanon at that time was under French mandate, more European and more welcoming to other people. So I was born in Lebanon after my parents lived there for over decades and more. And I grew up in Lebanon. And then we had to leave Lebanon again, in a sense, kind of escaping as Lebanon civil war was getting ready to break. And we knew that the Jewish community was in danger as Arafat and the PLO had come to Lebanon to settle, and the balance of power in Lebanon became very shaky. We knew there was not going to be a place to live in peace. So my parents had to escape this time to Mexico, where I grew up. And then at the age of 18 in Mexico, I decided to come to the United States to go to a university and seminary, where I became a doctor and a rabbi.
Talk a little bit about some of your formative years in both Lebanon and Mexico, and then why did you choose to become a doctor and a rabbi?
Well, in my formative years in Lebanon, I enjoyed them very much. I was a little kid. I lived there from age 0, since I was born till age 10. I had friends in one building. We lived Muslims, Christians, Armenians, Druze. Our building was the United Nation by itself. We got along all well. My friends were Druze, Muslims, and Christians. We used to play together, all kind of children games. Of course, as a child, I did not feel any danger or any anti-Semitism, if I may say. But of course, I understand we needed to live quiet, not much, to show that we were Jews, as the surrounding area may not have been that welcoming. Although, as a kid, I felt, it was fine. But the beautiful schools, went to schools, like I said, we had friends. And then we had to escape, in a sense, again, to save our lives to Mexico. Mexico was also, had a beautiful, from age 10 to age 18, the teenage year, were really beautiful. Mexico at that time was a nice, beautiful, quiet place. No gangs, no cartels, no drugs, no murders, as we have seen in the last several decades. But at that time in the 70s, Mexico City, and Mexico itself was beautiful, beautiful country, beautiful place, very peaceful, quiet. And I was able to grow and to learn and to study. And then I had always wanted to be a doctor, actually, not a rabbi, but a doctor. Since very, very young, I had what they thought was asthma or whooping cough in Lebanon, in which I was getting sick at least one day a week, 1 week a month, or 1 month a year, constantly. And in those days, especially in Lebanon, There were no cell phones. There barely were phones, at least. There was only one phone in the building. Not every household had a phone. There was a central phone in the building. You had to call the doctor, and you have to go sometimes to his house to wake them up so that they could come and examine you. Unlike today where they tell you go to the emergency room. In those days, doctors came to the house. And so that's how we lived. And so it was difficult for my parents and for the doctors and from the pharmacists, that some pharmacies were open 24 hours and they had to come. I got a lot of injection, penicillin, tetracycline, all of those antibiotics of that time. And so I thought in my mind as a kid, as a 5-6-year-old, I said, if there was a doctor in the house, then it would not be a task to try to find a doctor in the middle of the night, try to call them, try to go to their house, and try to wake them up. I said, if there was a doctor in the house, that would be much, much easier. And so I decided maybe the best thing for me, my parents cannot be doctors anymore. They already had chosen their career. My father was a rabbi. He was a mathematician. He was an accountant. He had already his professions lined up for him, and he lived, and exercised those professions. So I thought would be the best one to become the doctor. And since that age, 5-6 years old, I wanted to become a doctor.
And did you grow up with other siblings or?
Yes, I am the youngest. I'm the youngest of 7, actually. And my older brothers went into business, some of them in accounting, others were cantors and a businessman. I'm the only one who decided to go for a heavy profession like medicine or the rabbi. As I said, my father was a rabbi in Lebanon. He was a rabbi in Mexico of the congregation. He was a rabbi in Syria. In a sense, in fact, I come from a long line of rabbis for the last 500 years from Spain and on. Maybe not every generation. It could be every 2 generations. One generation yes, one generation no. So it's always going to find a Rabbi Abadie if you look into history. So in Mexico, I decided that's it. I want to become a doctor. Of course, I was accepted and even enrolled in Mexican university, the Autónoma Nacional, and also the very famous Jesuit University, the Anáhuac University. I was accepted with open arms, but I discovered that I would need to attend Sabbath classes and Sabbath laboratories, and the tests was also on Sabbath. As a Sabbath observer, I could not do that, especially as a son of a rabbi. I could not be that example to the community. Some people, they say, as long as I'm training for my profession, I'll do it. And then I won't work on the Sabbath. But I couldn't take that liberty personally because I was not willing to give up that. Secondly, as an example to the community, the son of the rabbi cannot take that liberty. And so I decided to look for a university in the United States that will permit me keep and honor my Sabbath and still become a doctor. And I discovered it was in the United States, in New York, Yeshiva University.
Yeah.
So university told me you could be whatever you want, any profession, without having to compromise your religious beliefs and principles. That's why I came to the United States. While in the United States, I discovered that since I was not a U.S. citizen, I cannot be accepted to the American medical program.
I didn't know that.
Yes, that's how it was, at least in the 70s. Well, by then it was the 80s, actually. By then it was already the 80s. So yes, to the point that my healthcare advisor, health science advisor told me at that time, there were 1 spot out of 4 applications to medical schools. It was one person was accepted out of 4, and the other 3, usually they went to Mexico, actually, to medical school. So my health advisor told me, he says, do you think we're going to accept a Mexican guy while our American guys are going to Mexico? Forget about it.
Right.
A citizen ain't going to make it. And indeed, I was not accepted because I was not a citizen. I was just a student. I had a student visa. In the meantime, the directors at the university said, look, while you wait to become an American citizen, why don't you go into the seminary? Anyhow, you come from a family of rabbis. Your father was a rabbi. You have generations of rabbis over the centuries. And why don't you become, go enroll in the seminary? It's 3 years. You'll become an American. Then you could go to medical school. So that's exactly what I did. In the meantime, I met an American girl. I married her. And I became a U.S. citizen that way. So I finished my seminary. I became a diplomate rabbi, right? And in fact, even the university found me a job at a congregation, a small one, which I took. And at the same time, I went to medical school. I did my internship, my residency, my fellowship. I did my internship and residency in internal medicine and fellowship in gastroenterology, all at the same time that I was a rabbi at a congregation. And of course, I moved congregation. I moved up, if you will, in the ladder of congregations. That's how I became a medical doctor and also a rabbi, which until now, I'm still doing the same thing.
Talk a little bit about how does your life play out? So you lived in New York, you graduated in New York. I'm assuming you also became a medical practitioner practicing in New York.
Yes, correct. First, I started working with a doctor right after finishing my fellowship. And after 2-3 years, I opened up my own private practice in gastroenterology in Brooklyn while I was a rabbi of a major congregation in Brooklyn of our community. I would go morning and evening. I would go to the synagogue to give classes, to give sermons. And in the middle of the day, I did my medical profession.
How did that work out? I mean, it is hard to, as a medical professional, there is so much demand on your time. Otherwise, there is demand on your time as a rabbi.
Right. That's absolutely. So when I would be asked, so how many hours a day you dedicate to the rabbinate and how many hours you dedicate to medicine? I say 24 and 24. You know, as a rabbi, you don't have time off. You may get calls in the middle of the night. God forbid there is a death, there is a astral care, middle of the night. You have to answer those calls. Medicine, the same thing. There's a patient who needs you in the middle of the night. You also answer. So yes, both professions required 24 hours a day attention, and it's difficult, but it was doable. I did it with great humbleness, dedication, responsibility, and professionality.
And then how did your life unfold in New York City? I mean, you just give me a little bit of a nugget around your two practices as to how that gave you purpose and how did that bring joy into the work that you were doing.
Right. So my congregants were very proud that their rabbi was a doctor because they felt that they need a spiritual leader who has his feet on the ground, not just his head in the sky, at his feet on the ground. So that was very good. And on the other hand, my patient who also knew that I was a rabbi, and most of them were not Jewish. They were also very happy that I was a rabbi because they said, we can trust you to be a good doctor because we know that you answer to a higher authority, not just to your diploma, but you answer to a higher authority and therefore we trust you. So I had, in a sense, the moral support of my congregants on my hand and of my patients on the other hand. They both were happy that I was doing both in a sense at the same time. I always felt, a rabbi, you are a healer of the soul, and a doctor, you are a healer of the body. We as humans, we are part soul, part body. And so to be a healer of the soul and a healer of the body is a wholesome approach to when I approach any person, congregant or patient, we approach them with the wholesome view that this person is made out of body and out of soul. And so therefore we have to, when we approach them for anything, we have to have the knowledge and the ability to be able to speak to both the soul and the body of that person. So it has been very, very helpful to myself, both professions. And of course, many told me, no, they might contradict. Religion is religion and science is the opposite. I found that they complement each other very, very well. And when I would approach a body medically, I know that this person was created by God. And therefore, my utmost respect to that person, to their body, and to the life that they have.
Talk a little bit about this melding of science and spirituality. Today, there is great difficulty in people to actually bring these two together. But you are at that unique place, actually. So talk a little bit about that.
So yes, I always see whenever science ends, religious begins. And whenever religion ends, science begins, in a sense. They complement each other. We know even in science, we can reach one point that we cannot go beyond because we don't have the understanding, the comprehension, the wherewithal to go beyond that point. And that point is where religion is where God is. And so even science knows we don't have the answer to everything. We reach a certain point and yet beyond is already God and religion. And so therefore, to me, is an easy bridge. Is an easy bridge from one to the other. Because I do believe, as I said, it's all mixed. Because what is science? Science are the laws of physics, the laws of chemistry, and who created the world? God. He's the one who created those laws.
Right.
He's the one who created those laws, the laws of gravity, of the universe, of science. And so therefore, it's not a contradiction, the opposite. Working with science is working with what God created. The only problem is that some scientists may reach a level of knowledge or a level in which they deny the existence of God. To me, that is basically telling a child to deny his parents. And yes, now because the child is older, adult, mature, he no longer, so to speak, needs his parents, then he can deny his parents. I said that's the wrong thing to say and to do. We have to recognize who our parents are, no matter if we need them, if we don't need them, no matter if we are now capable of living our life. The same thing with science. Science, we have to know that, in a sense, we have a creator who created science itself. And so therefore, if we deny that, we are kind of denying our own existence.
Talk a little bit about the work that you're doing in the UAE. I mean, why there, and what are you doing there?
I had visited the UAE before I became the senior rabbi there. A friend of mine who is a businessman who does a lot of business with the Gulf area, Bahrain, UAE, and other countries in that region. We met in 2010 at a Sephardic heritage trip to Spain. I took a group of people to Spain it's a heritage trip to understand the history of the Sephardim, of the Jews living in Spain prior to the expulsion and the Inquisition in 1492. So I was speaking about what was known then as the convivencia. The convivencia is basically living together in harmony, peaceful coexistence between the three Abrahamic religions, right? The Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And I was speaking that it was the greatest of time, because there was cooperation between the religious leaders, between the scientific leaders, between the professions. Everybody, they lived in peace and tranquility and respected each other. So this gentleman said, what you're speaking with is fascinating, Rabbi, because there is a country in the Gulf area who wants to recreate that convivencia, that peaceful coexistence between all the religions, specifically Abrahamic religions. He says, I would like you to meet those leaders of that country, because I think they'll be fascinated by what you speak. Now, don't forget, I speak Arabic also.
Right.
And I know the Arab culture, and I studied Islam. So, I'm very well equipped to be able to communicate, deal, and find a common denominator. So that's what he did. He introduced me to many of their leaders, political leaders, official leaders, business leaders, socialites, diplomats. And over the years, we, in a sense, became friends and kept that communication. Whenever they would come to New York or to Washington, they'll invite me, we would meet, we'll speak, and show them all the Jewish Arabic literature that I have, which I had from my parents' household. A lot of Jewish literature written in Arabic, actually. And the Bible was in Arabic. They were fascinated. And so one day, this gentleman in 2018 told me that he wants to bring as a gift to the Crown Prince. At that time was Mohammed bin Zayed. Now he's the president. He used to be the Crown Prince. He wants to bring a Torah scroll, the Torah scrolls that, right? And dedicated in memory of Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, the founding father of the United Arab Emirates. He said, I would like you to bring it. Since they already know you, you can communicate with them. I want you to be the one who brings that gift to them. I said, by all means. We went, we visited, we were welcomed by the Crown Prince into his palace. We communicated, we exchanged opinions, ideas. We had a private time to speak also. And in a sense, that strengthened that relationship that I already had before. I already knew that the Abrahamic Accords were going to happen, because it was the process that we're knowledge about. And so once the Abraham Accords were signed, then I was invited to become the rabbi there, since I was known already by the few Jewish leaders that lived there and the government And they thought that would be the best candidate to fill that position, to be the rabbi, the leader of the Jewish community, and yet the representative of the Jewish religion vis-a-vis the United Arab Emirates. And that's how I arrived there.
That's so fascinating. And it is so important that we continue to be the bridge makers, right? I believe that purpose and purposeful existence actually allows you to create bridges. So let's just move a little bit and talk about how does purpose play a role in your life, especially when the times get tough.
Yes, of course. I mean, everything in life has a purpose, or we have to make a purpose in life, because otherwise, as humans, without a purpose, we would be just lost in our environment, going through too many directions, back and forth, until we find a straight path, or at least a path to that goal and that purpose. In life, you always have to set ourselves our purpose. As a rabbi, my purpose in life was to bring people closer to the knowledge of God, to bring people closer to morality, to ethics, to social behavior. And as a rabbi, I understand very well that all of humanity, we're all the children of the same God. And we are actually brothers and sisters. And the purpose of that is, brothers and sisters, is to live peacefully together, coexistence. Doesn't mean that we have to look alike or be alike or think alike, but we have to respect each other and respect each other's difference of opinion. Our religiosity, our beliefs, our different ways, like in a family. One parent, one mother, right? One father, and the siblings. They were all born from the same parents. They all pretty much share at least 50% of the genes. Yet each one can have a different personality, character, wishes, likes, and things like that, well, even beliefs. But we have to live as a family. So as rabbi, not just in the Jewish community, but at large in the world, I see all humanity to be children of the same God. And we have the obligation and the responsibility to live together peacefully, differences of opinion notwithstanding, but to live peacefully, to respect each other's right of existence and of living in peace and tranquility. So that's the purpose, the general purpose. Now, as a medical doctor, then I have the responsibility to treat the children of God, humanity, and make sure that not only spiritually they are healthy, but also physically and biologically they are healthy. So my purpose in that is to make sure that every human being that needs my attention as a doctor gets those services, right? Is treated as a human being with utmost respect to life and his persona, yet try to help them to feel as healthy as possible, either preventing disease or treating disease. So that's, generally speaking, the purposes of my two professions. But of course, there are different and personal purposes to achieve the best that I could achieve, to help in the best way that I could help. Because at the end of the day, again, as a religious person, if we are on this earth, then God wants us to be on this earth. If we were born, that means God wanted us or needed us to be born. Why? Because we must have something to do in this world, to develop this world, to make this world a better place. And that's why God created us and made us born. And so if that's the case, then I have to make sure that I make this earth a better place than what it was before I was born. I have that responsibility. That is my purpose in life, to do something. Now, not all the time we know exactly what is our purpose, because when we are created, we don't come with an instruction booklet to tell us, God wants you to do this and to be that and to fulfill this. Of course not. But of course, our inclinations lead us to that purpose in a spiritual and physical way. Somehow, I was directed to go to the seminary and do the rabbinate and get a diploma for rabbinate, which I thought originally I'll just get the diploma, but that doesn't mean I'm going to function as a rabbi. It was more for intellectual pursuit and learning, fund of knowledge. But yet, I was immediately asked to be a rabbi in a congregation, and that's it. That took its road. And likewise in medicine, since age 5 or 6, I wanted to become a doctor. In a sense, that is basically what I believe that's the purpose that God put me in this world. Like many person in their different professions, their different likes, what their inclination to do, that most likely is the purpose why they were put in this world. Sometimes it's easy to discover, sometimes it's not. But ultimately, I believe that we do discover. And those who do not discover their purpose in life, unfortunately, they live a miserable life because they don't know what to do with their life. Unfortunately, they may go into criminality and mischievous behavior and antisocial behavior because they have not found themselves. They have not found what is their purpose in this world. That's painful to see. And me, my whole sympathy to people like that have not yet found their purpose in life.
Well, you make such an important point. I work with people who will be formerly incarcerated. And what is very fascinating is that, the people that I work with actually discovered their purpose while in prison and changed their lives around. And then got released because of their good work and are now living a life of purpose in ways that you would not imagine. That people who actually spend 20, 30 years in prison can actually change their lives around. Because purpose is such an important driver because it's a mental thing. And it gives you that mental fortitude. I know we're going to run out of time, but Rabbi, thank you so very much. I want to end by asking you this one last question. Share with us your one golden nugget, a word of wisdom for our listeners.
Word of wisdom is be good, do good, and think good. For the world is out there for us to do good. We find our purpose in life is to do good, to be good first, to do good, to think good, and to act good. And in this way, we could make peace, we could keep the peace, we could live in peace, and we could certainly be very, very helpful to make this world a better place.
Thank you so very much for being part of this podcast. Again, purpose is, I believe, such an important driver for us to be able to first think good, be good, and then act good, because purpose is that renewable source of energy that continues to drive humanity forward, and it gives you that energy to show up and be your authentic self. So, Rabbi, thank you so very much for being part of this podcast. Once again, Living with Purpose, please take a listen to it. It's on all of the various channels, and go look at our website at Living with Purpose and Purpose Mindset. Thank you very much for listening, and Rabbi, thank you very much for being part of this journey.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be part of your podcast. Thank you.